Cari amici sportivi, welcome to the local soccer show, guys. Brought to you by Milan Weekly Podcast, guys. Talking everything grassroots. Back at the bike, Stevie P. I was not available Monday for Milan Weekly Podcast, but you get a dose of Stevie P on a Thursday, guys. We can't start off the show without thanking the guys and girls at Evangelista Sport. Guys, thank you very much for everything you do for the local soccer show. Guys, please check them out, evangelistasports.com, for all your football apparel needs, especially for your young girls or boys who are starting to play. The outdoor season, ladies and gentlemen, is upon us. Guys, tonight I'm very excited for tonight's guest because listen to him a lot. Get to listen to him on the radio when he's available to talk. A wealth of soccer knowledge, uh, guys. It's going to be an interesting night because he's a man that I admire because he does shoot straight from the hip. He does not beat around the bush. It's straight to the point. And this is what the local soccer show is all about. Stevie P, Steve, myself, Marcello in the background, Presidente working on everything in the background for us to monitor the chat and take your questions from the web. Guys, let's bring in Mr. John Limniatis. John, welcome to the local soccer show.
Thank you for having me. I apologize that I'm not Italian, but we're close.
John,
We're next door.
Greeks and Italians, I think we're cut from the same cloth. From that Mediterranean lifestyle. You're in much better shape than I am, as you can see. I love to eat.
It's good that you show me from kind of the chest up, because if you showed me from the chest down, you wouldn't say that. So,
John, before we start, I'm gonna make you laugh. Usually, we play the intro before I invite the guest on, or I say the guest's name. I did this purposely, and I have to say this because the Marcello's in the background, and he's gonna critique me on this. Our intro music is like it feels like the 300 music, Greek music, Greek mythology music, and we're bringing in someone of your stature and your pedigree in the soccer world, and especially everything you do for local soccer. I want to start off for anybody who's, especially from Canada and has been living under a rock and does not know who John Limniatis is. If you could just tell everybody just about yourself, what you're doing right now.
well, this is my favorite part because I love talking about myself. So we're all good. Very simply, I'm an immigrant here in Canada. Well, obviously, I'm a Canadian, but I wasn't born here. But from the first day that I arrived, a couple of days later, I went to a park with a person that I met, which we couldn't communicate because I didn't speak any English. And I started playing soccer for NDG at the time at 10 years old. And from then on, things kind of moved forward from there. Played AAA, played on the regional team and Concordia at the time. Moved on from there, played AAA. Then I started playing with the Quebec teams, obviously. And then moved on with a national team since I was 16 years old, at least on the youth teams. From there, I started my professional career at 19 years old in the CPL, which was the Canadian Professional League at the time. And I played for Ottawa because Montreal didn't have a team the first year. They had a team the second year, which was the Supra, for those that are a little bit older and they know. Then my first year into professional, the second year, I left and I went to Greece to play for 5 years there in their first division. I stayed there for 5 years, came back, and that was the first year that the Impact came alive from the Sapporo company that created the team. I came in about halfway through the season because I was still playing to finish the season in Greece. So I played a good 10 years, about with Montreal, and those 10 years I played with the national team. Other than that, after I finished playing, I started getting into coaching. I've been technical director of a club or of a region for what 20, at minimum 20 years, if not more. And it's something that I've always been involved in soccer all my life. It's amazing. I'm very grateful to be in a sport like this, to do something that I love, because I know it's very hard for people that may not like their jobs, but they have to do them. I love my job. It's not as easy as people think, but at the same time, giving back, even though I do get paid for what I do, I'm still trying to give back the most I can for the players, because one thing there's others, but one thing with me is that I've grew up through the system, and I know exactly what the system is like, and I sympathize a lot with the younger players that are either starting out or are in the process of developing and moving on. And like others in Montreal and in Quebec, I'm an example that if you do your best, if you work hard at it, you could become something and have a career out of it. Even though I think for those kids that think professional soccer is the only way to go, it's great to have a dream. Just remember that you need to have a plan B, because sometimes things don't work out, and school is your plan B.
Excellent.
So thank you for having
Amazing.
me.
Thank
I
you
could go
again,
on, by
John.
the way. I could
Yeah,
go
I
on,
know. I'm
but
pretty sure you could
I,
go
I
on.
just gotta cut it a little bit. It was the show's first.
We have an hour of your time, John. Before we get to grassroots, if for everybody who's watched Milan Weekly podcast, we're famous, where we myself and Vinny, who's the co-host, we pretty much go off the hip and really don't prepare. But for the local soccer show, I like to be able to at least highlight some things of your career, because I think it's important that people know. So I do a little bit of research, right? One thing that caught my attention, John, is while doing just a little bit of research, I did not know that you were the first Canadian sold.
Yeah,
Uh, that was something that I was once I was reading that, I was like, that's a great accomplishment. So
yeah.
for everybody,
Well,
just to be clear on that point, Mr. John Limniatis was the first Canadian sold to a European team.
yeah, it was, well, we're talking about 1988, 89, obviously a long time ago. At the time, there was only five of us, if I remember correctly, that played in Europe. We weren't that many. And for me, it was the first, because other guys had gone on a trial. What happened with me is that we ended up playing. I was on the senior national team, and we ended up Greece. The national team of Greece came here to play a couple of exhibition games in Canada. We played one at Claude Orbiard back in the day, and then we went to a tournament together in Toronto to play against. There was us against Greece again, and I think it was Peru, the 13. Obviously got around very quickly, because the national team of Greece, as it is in Italy, it's very, very popular. They had reporters with them from Greece, so it got around very quickly that I was Greek, and they kind of looked into it a little bit. I played all three games that we played in the tournament. We ended up beating beating Greece on penalty shots. And because I was Greek, and at the time, for those that are, I've been around soccer for quite a while, you were only allowed to have three out-of-country players at the time. So the important thing with me was that I was Greek. So I didn't count as an outside player going back to Greece, because I was born there, of course.
You were not taking up a foreign spot.
That's right. That's right. Back at the time, I wasn't taking a foreign spot. Two, I was playing on the national team. I was fortunate enough at the time to also captain the national team, even though I was 19 years old. And obviously, the interest grew. And within a couple of days after we were done, I got about 5 teams that called me direct from Greece, because obviously they had reports going back, and the Greek players playing for the national team, blah 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 blah. And I ended up signing for a team which they paid my club in Ottawa, because I was playing in Ottawa, like I said before, at the time. I believe they paid him about 50,000 US at the time to get my services, so I can go and play. And that's, of course, on top of the contract and all that stuff that you get. So at the time, I was the first player to ever been sold to a European team.
That's amazing, and again, these are things, hidden gems with guys like you who played with Canada for such a long time, that people don't know about. So, if again, now you're born in Greece, so coming here to Canada, picking up soccer as a sport where in Greece it's very popular. How were your first impressions of Canadian soccer when you came from Greece to Canada and started playing soccer?
Well, I came here 10 years old. Obviously, in Greece at the time, because they didn't have a younger academies, the teams they started a little bit later. So we all played on the streets. We all bought our own shirts. We played back at the church, back at the school. When the teachers caught us, they gave us a bit of a beating at the time. They burned our ball with their cigarettes.
Yeah.
Imagine. So I came here, like I said to you earlier. A couple of days that I was here, I lived in NDG, which was a neighborhood that we all played outside even back then. So I met someone that played for the U10 team of NDG, and he asked me to go with him to the park. And the coach at the time, who's my friend till today, my friend asked if I can join to practice, and the coach said no, we have enough players, we can't. It was the middle of the season. I came here in June. I said okay, but at the end they wanted to make even teams, so the coach said tell your friend to jump over the fence and come on. Just a short story, make a long story short, he drove me home and asked my parents to sign at the moment, because as soon as I stepped on, things became a little bit different for the guy. So it was exciting for me. It was the first time I played organized soccer, because like I said, at that time we all played on the streets. Now it's a little bit different in Europe, but back then there wasn't anything for younger kids. They all started a little bit late. So it was my first time playing organized soccer. I moved on pretty easily. It's far more organized in many ways than a lot of countries in Europe or anywhere else, amateur soccer. A lot of people don't know this.
Wow.
But back in the day, now it's obviously Europe in amateur has gone a lot better. But for amateur soccer and clubs in Canada, they were far more organized than they were in Greece as far as playing in the league, coaching and all that stuff. Because like I said, they didn't have it at the time when I was in Greece. So it was the first time I played organized soccer. I met a lot of friends. I met a lot of people. I went through the system. I got to learn how Canadian soccer is. Obviously, it helped me with my transition into another country.
Exactly.
I didn't speak any English at the time. I was a Greek redhead. It doesn't show right now because but I was the only Greek redheaded person I know. I know it's not many Italian redheads either.
Neither. No.
So I stood out to begin with right off the bat at 10 years old. So I had to kind of prove myself because everybody was making fun of me. So I had to play soccer and I had to do it well so people don't make fun of me. I moved on. I met a lot of good people. I've met a lot of people that were not very good. I met a lot of people that had their own interest in mind over the years, obviously. But I know a lot of people, Italians, Greeks, so on and so forth. They criticize a lot Canadian soccer. They don't believe it's at a level of other countries. But I can tell you that we try our best, and people need to understand that culturally we're not the same as Greece or Italy or anything else in soccer. I mean, it's been around forever and ever. So the passion it wasn't there yet, but obviously it's building on. And the fact that Canada is going to the World Cup this year, it's going to help in all of this. Exactly. I don't know if your viewers know, but there's 1 million players registered in Canada, and I can tell you that's a lot compared to many other countries. Even though maybe our development needs a little bit more work, but it's more cultural than anything else, in my opinion. And the fact that we have different sports that are very popular here, especially in Quebec and in Canada with hockey. We have competition, so it's a little bit harder because some other countries do not have as much other sports that kids are interested in. But like I said, I met a lot of people. I've had my issues throughout the years because I was always, I wasn't easy in the sense of I was demanding on what I expected from things. I was a bit of a big mouth, which I still am. I gave my opinion on certain things which a lot of people kind of didn't like. But it was all, in my opinion, to make things better for everybody, as far as I know anyway. My character was quite difficult, but like I said, the people that really cared for me understood and helped me to move on and to develop.
To progress. John, what's interesting too is if we could fast forward. So, fast forward to when you went back to Greece. Now we hear a lot. We had the opportunity on the local soccer show to talk to guys like Rocco Placentino, Sandro Grande, who've made that transition. They're Canadian. They went back for their sake.
Yeah.
They went back to Italy,
Yeah.
and they told their story where, even though they spoke the language and came from an Italian background,
Yeah.
as soon as they stepped foot in their respective club, they were kind of looked at as an outsider.
Yeah.
Did you feel that same way when you
Yes,
went back to
absolutely.
play?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe my way was a little bit different because, like I said, I was signed before I went in. I was playing with the national team. It was a big deal for the club for me to go. So it was in the papers. It was a kind of a big thing for them to happen. So I didn't go in per se as a tryout player. So they were kind of waiting for me. The fans kind of knew that I was coming. But certainly, there was always the question of do they actually play soccer in Canada? And, they called me the Eskimo at times just because they think that Canada is just snow and only ice.
True.
Obviously, they're not wrong in some way, but they couldn't believe that a Canadian Greek was coming to play for a Greek team because, like I said, they didn't think Canada had any soccer to begin with. So I did feel a little bit of an outsider. A little bit different again is that obviously I grew up in Greece as a kid, so it wasn't very foreign for me. I still have family. I have a lot of family in Greece, so that kind of helped in many ways. But yes, there were a lot of people that questioned my ability to play. They questioned the fact that why is a Canadian player coming to play in Greece when Canadian soccer for them didn't exist.
And did you think, this is a question that I always wanted I like to ask everybody who played. Did you think that after your playing career was over, that soccer would be your livelihood?
Well, I wanted it. I wanted it to be. I wasn't sure, of course, but I wanted it to be. But it came. It wasn't easy, but at the same time, probably was easier than some other people because the fact that quite a few people knew me, and over the years that I played with the national team, so I kind of had a foot in the door per se to become a coach or to become whatever else in soccer. And it was always something that I wanted to do. It was always something that I wanted to get into, and slowly, it came to that. Became a technical director originally just a little bit on a part-time basis, but then I realized that I can move on to this. So I went to Lakeshore, which was a big club at the time. Then I went to Lac St. Louis, the region, because that's my second time at the region now. And from there, a few years later, I went obviously to coach the Montreal Impact at 2008. So for me, it was a bit natural, but obviously a little bit unknown because it's still a business and you never know what could happen. But I think the fact that I played and the fact that people know me made that a little bit easier for me to continue being in soccer. Yes.
My last question on your career, until we get to the nice and hot and spicy stuff with the grassroots, is how did you feel as someone who played for the Impact, now being the coach of some of the players that you played with on the Impact?
Well, look, for one, I loved it. I mean, being a coach is something that, on a professional team, something that a lot of people don't get a chance to do. Yes, it was a little bit more difficult in the sense that, you mentioned Sandro, you mentioned Rocco. I mean, these are the guys that I knew growing up. I mean, they're younger than me, but, I knew them. I knew who they were all about. I had seen them. I didn't get a chance to play with Sandro, but I did play with Rocco for a little bit. And, getting to coach them and getting to coach some other guys like Morbiello, other guys that I played with, it wasn't easy. But for me, soccer was very natural. So me being in a dressing room, me being around a team was really not that difficult. Coaching the team was difficult, but being around players and being around in the dressing room and knowing what soccer was about, it came quite natural to me. And, we all had to understand and be professional that even though we played together or we know each other, we still have a job to do, and we still have to do things the way they're supposed to be. And the other thing that helped me, obviously, is that being around soccer for very long, I kind of understood players. I understood the way They think I understood the frustrations, understood all that. So, and the fact that they knew that I played, and then they knew that I also played for the club, it made things a little bit easier.
Cool. It's great to always get that perspective. I find it a very interesting dynamic to go from player to
No,
coach.
it's not easy. No, but it's not easy.
And it's something that I would not that I don't think I would have trouble, but it could be it could. I don't want to hurt. I don't want to say hurt is a strong word, but it could sour some good relationships.
Yeah,
because it is a business, right?
Yeah.
Like you said,
of course.
you're there to make money.
Well, you have to be mature. Yeah,
exactly, and they're there to make money as well. Yeah. And once you start hitting someone's pocket, it starts to become a little bit.
The only small difference, I think, it's far more difficult when you just stopped playing, like you were on the team the year before or 2 years before, and then you became the coach. I think that's a little bit more difficult. Me, I had obviously years that I was away, so it wasn't like I was there with them, a year before or 2 years before. It was quite a few years that I was outside of it. So going right away into becoming a coach when you were just a player with the players, I think that's more difficult than in the way I went.
Well put. Okay, John, we're gonna get to the meat of the conversation now. We're gonna get to the grassroots. Yourself being TD of a region now, and we know you spoke earlier about being TD of a club. What's if you could compare the roles of TD for a club and TD for the region, just so that everybody understands the difference between the two, because it has to be night and day, right? So.
No, it's not night and day. I think the principles of it are the same, except you're doing things for one club and one club only. But in this case, with being at the region, I work with all 14 clubs in Lac St. Louis. So it's more global. It's obviously bigger. And some of the things that I do, I try to implement that with the technical directors for all of us together. Because in some cases, clubs work to some extent a little bit independent. They're very competitive with each other. So it's hard sometimes to get them to work together. But we all know that if the better we work together, the better it will benefit all of us in the long run. We're still not at a place that everybody is convinced working together all the time about everything. But we all know that the more we work together and the more that we do things similarly, the more that we can exchange, the better it will be for all of us. So for me, it's getting the clubs together, getting the clubs to work together, bringing some opinions and some ideas and some support for the clubs, along with running the regional programs, which is the Sport Etude, as I'm sure a lot of people know, and the regional teams at 13 and 14 years old. So I went from being on the field quite a lot, but being on the field far less now than I was before. But now it's more, to try to put a structure together that's going to help all the clubs at the same, along with the exchanges that I have, because obviously I don't know everything, and me working with the TDs is extremely important. So there are some similarities, except that I'm not as much involved on the field as I was in the past with the teams. And of course, I have to deal a bit more with the Quebec Soccer Federation, because we're the middleman, if you want to call it that, between the Quebec Soccer Federation and the clubs. And we're there to support them. We're there to help them as much as we can. And that's something, like I said, it's not very different for me, except that I was doing it only for one club. And now I work with everyone. I'm not their boss, but what I do is I'm trying to help people and help clubs to better themselves and to develop even better as far as my knowledge is concerned.
Would you say the TD of the region became a little bit more administrative than it is hands-on?
To some extent, yes. Yes, I totally agree. I've, my strong suit is not doing documents. It's not being in front of a computer. The reason for that is I've headed the ball a bit too often, and some of the brain cells are not there anymore. But obviously, I think the myth is that, because a lot of players, when they do get into soccer, they think that everything is only on the field, and that's not true. You still have to do, if you're doing my job, you still have to do administrative work that has to do with technical. I don't do inscriptions. I don't take the money from the kids when they come in to pay. I don't do that. But obviously, there's always administrative and anything that you do. And I didn't like it in the beginning when I first started, but it's something that's a must. I've gotten a lot better at it, but I think you need to have a documentation and then execute that documentation, except that I'm not on the field, like I said before, as much as I was before. But I'm also a little bit older now. I've gone through that part. So maybe this is what I can help a little bit more now.
Yeah. And another question I have with you regarding that is, how is the communication between the region and the clubs? Is it something that's done 2 times a year, 10 times a year, weekly, monthly?
Yeah, it's in a lot of cases it's weekly, depending on what it is. Just to give you an example, I meet monthly with all the TDs. So we have a monthly meeting if there's things that we need to discuss, or for me to present, or for them to bring something up. So we have monthly meetings all together. So all 14 of us are together. But then there's everyday things that go on. So I would get emails or calls almost on an everyday basis from one club or another to work with. So the communication is continuous, except, there might be a club that I might not have communicated for a month, but there might be another one that I communicated every day for a week, depending on what it is. But one of the things that I want to do that I think was missing a little bit in the past is that I want to make sure that people see me out there. So I'll be visiting clubs. I'll be going to clubs to see how things are. I'll be visiting them on the field. One of the big things that I'm going to do is join or go to the CDCs, visit the CDCs of each club, because it's important for people to kind of see me around. For just for the fact that people feel that the region is around for them, which I don't think it was good enough in the past. And the other big thing that I do with the clubs is coaching education, because I'm involved in coaching courses for a very long time for the Federation, the Canadian Soccer Association. So that's one of my strengths, if you want to call it that. So I go into clubs. I arrange it always with the TDs. I go in and I do a little bit of coaching education on top of already what the TDs do. So the communication is almost constant, depending on the situation, depending on the club. There's some clubs that need a bit more than others. Others are a little bit, they might have TDs that are very experienced and they know exactly how things are. And there's others that are a little bit more beginners. So it depends on the club, depends on the situation, and it depends on the time of the year. Sometimes of the year are a lot busier than others, and it's mostly, and a lot of people think it's during the summer, but it's not exactly during the summer. I think it's a little bit before the summer that things are very busy to try to get things moving forward for the season.
For the summer.
Yeah.
John, what about the communication between regions? Let's say Lac St. Louis and Concordia. Is there communication between the regions?
Yes, of course there is. Well, obviously there's many things involved. The competition directors, the one that put the competition, they communicate. The presidents communicate, or whatever the case may be in between them. They have their individual meetings almost monthly. And the TDs, the regional TDs, like we do in the club, we have a monthly meeting with the federation. So the federation and all the 18 regions, we meet all together, obviously to discuss various things that we can work with in our regions to bring down to the clubs. So we meet almost on a monthly basis, and we do communicate with each other when need be. Some of us have been there for a very long time. Guys like Valero Gazzola and some other guys, they've been around for 25, 30 years at this job. So I know quite a few people in it, and we try to exchange ideas, try to exchange things, try to give our opinion to make things better. And that's done almost on a monthly basis as well.
Very refreshing to hear. That's something that doesn't.
We just don't twiddle our thumbs,
No, and like through the local soccer show, and just like again, someone like Sandro and Rocco that I've known for quite a bit of time. I'm privy to some of that information, and I know someone too, like who was at Soccer Quebec and now at Soccer Canada. Someone like Mike Vitulano, great wealth of knowledge. I'm privy to that information. I don't think, John, the parents understand what's being done.
No, they don't. Yes, and I'll tell you something. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people didn't even understand what a technical director is. A lot of clubs didn't understand themselves. A lot of clubs say, well, why would we need to hire somebody? Why would we need to have a particular person work as a technical director? A lot of people were threatened by it as well. People in the clubs were threatened that, why do we need to get somebody? Why do we need to do this? Why do we need to spend money? But the fact that the federation put a rule in, because I think it's normal, that obviously you have to have a technical director in order to be a proper club. I think that helped. And slowly, obviously, they realized that that the technical part of soccer, I wouldn't say it's the most important thing, but it's the thing that people look at first. Yes, they want a club to be organized, the fields, the registration laws. Of course, that's very, very important. But at the end of the day, what does a parent and a player want? Is they want to get on the field and play soccer. The rest is around, but that's what they want the most. And you needed to have somebody that's specific for that part of the club, which, like I said, like I told you before, a lot of people didn't understand, and clubs didn't understand, because there was a lot of issues in the beginning, and still are with some clubs,
Yes.
in accepting the fact that they have a technical person that needs to help them and tell them what to do as far as the technical side, because a lot of people talk like they know, and a lot of people talk, I wouldn't say from where, but a lot of people think they know and they don't.
They don't. And that's something that, it's a frustrating part for me, being first a parent, now slowly getting involved in coaching, because I have
And,
have
and
my
it's And Steve, it's the unknown. A
yeah,
lot of parents don't really know
you don't
what
know.
goes on. Yeah, well, some do. It depends on the club. It depends
Yes.
how much information the club gives. But a lot of people just say things without even knowing exactly how it works. And obviously, somebody like me or Sanjo or Rocco, whoever else, we can't have conversations with everybody.
No,
It's
it's
impossible.
impossible.
So a lot of people say things that are actually not a fact, because they think they know, or they think it's like that, or somebody else told them that it's this way. But the clubs are doing a much better job now, communicating with the parents and communicating things than ever before. And this is part of the club licensing program that started, is part of the communication, a part of documentation, a part of putting things on the social media is very, very important. It's a requirement for the club licensing now, which wasn't in the past. So a lot of more information is going out than ever before.
Yeah. It's interesting that you segue to my next topic, which is the club licensing. So this is, again, for everybody who does not know, the club licensing, where clubs can apply for a national, provincial,
Certain
regional,
license, certain status.
certain status of license.
Yeah.
If you can pick, John, one thing that you liked from this process and one thing that you think needs to be improved, what would it be?
Well, there's a lot of things that I liked about it, or I like about it. I think the fact that we're trying to do something that's united, something that's that everybody is almost on the same kind of wavelength to do things. Because the biggest problem we've had in Canada is we never really had a real direction on how the country should be, and how we should behave, or how we should do things in soccer. We never had that. Each province kind of did their own thing. Yes, in some ways we're similar, but in a lot of ways, from club to club and from region to region and from province to province, we all did as we thought was best. So there was never really a direction of how we want things to be as a whole. So this club licensing, what it does, good or bad, but what it does, it makes the clubs work in a very similar manner. So they all have the same requirements, the same things that are needed, depending on the license that you have, because obviously the higher the license, the more you need to have. But at least it has united, and we have a certain direction that we're going to, because in like I said, in the past, everybody went their own direction and everybody did what they thought was best. At least now we have something that we can go with, and kind of go around on the same road to kind of work in the same manner to kind of achieve the same things. So that's one thing that I really, really like. There's a lot of details in it that I like. There's some things that I don't, but at least unifying and having a program that we all need to kind of work in the same manner, I think that's amazing.
Nice. A part of this club licensing, because I went through it with my local club here, and at the U9, that's my son's age, is basically the evaluation process. So as you know, through the winter we start evaluating kids and having adult conversations with parents about how we evaluate, and like
Yeah,
we're not the NFL combine here. We're
yeah,
not
of course.
evaluating the range of their leap or the strength of their shot.
No,
We're
not at that age.
evaluating not at that age, exactly, at U9. But what would be, with your experience, what would be some advice that you would give to, TDs, coaches going through this evaluation process with kids at that anywhere between U9 and U12? What would be your, hey, you should be doing this kind of
Yeah,
advice?
well, one, don't label kids in the sense that, just because a kid happens to be a little bit above everybody else at 8 or 9 years old, that doesn't mean that will continue if you don't help the kid. And at the same time, the other great thing about the CDC is all the coaches work with all the kids, or that's how it's supposed to work. So in the past, you had the best coaches in that level working only with the elite players. And what the great thing about the CDC is that the coaches supposed to work with everybody. Okay, and the thing that I would tell clubs or TDs or coaches: one, be honest. Two, be truthful at what you do, and make sure you do not close your idea of what players are like, because we all know from 9 years old to 10 years old to 11 years old, things change, the bodies change, their minds change, a lot of things can change. So a kid that's 9 years old and is very, very good at 9 years old, it doesn't mean he'll be good at 12 or 13. And just keep an open mind at things. Make sure that you give your best for the kids, because sometimes we kind of forget this. Make sure that the kids are the center of your club, and all you think about is getting the kids better, and communicate properly so everybody knows what's going on, and you're clear about it, and you're transparent about what you do. And the most important thing is to look for potential at the moment and long-term potential. But the potential of the player can change from one year
Yes.
to the other. So keep an open mind. Make sure that every kid gets an opportunity to see what they can do, and just be, the best thing is just try to be truthful. And if there's something you don't know, try to get the knowledge, and don't think that you know just because you think you know. Try to educate yourself as much as you can. Try to do things that you can give yourself and be better to coach. Because I'll tell you the truth, a lot of players, ex-players, if it is in the amateur level and the professional level, they all think they can coach. Oh, me, I played, I think I can coach. And I can tell you that is not really that true. Yes, if you were a player, obviously you have an advantage than just a regular parent or somebody that played at a very low level.
It could also be a disadvantage.
Yes, of course, but you need to go through the steps to learn and be able to teach what you know and how to teach it, because a lot of your ex-players know per se the game, but they're very poor in able to communicate and able to coach it. Because even me, when I first took my first license as a coach, for me it was like wow, it was like I kind of learned how to structure things, how to put things together, how to communicate things to players. So for the TDs, get as much knowledge as possible, be transparent of what you do, and do not label kids at a very young age, and just look for potential, not for being the best player or not. Just look for the potential that they have, and work on their potential.
Another question that comes up very often, with different friends of mine who have their kids in different groups of the CDC. I like to call them groups, not
Well, it is
teams,
groups.
because it
No,
is
but that's
groups.
what it's called. It is
Yeah.
groups. Yeah.
Yeah. So, example, and from this example, I would like John Limniatis's response, advice for a parent,
Yeah.
and John Limniatis's advice for the coach.
Yes.
Now, we know that in these multiple groups, the players can shift from group 3 to 2 and 2 to 1, or
Yes.
vice versa, depending
Yes.
on how they perform during the season.
Yeah. That's what it's supposed.
How?
That's how it's
Yeah,
supposed to work.
how
Yes.
it's supposed to work, exactly. And that's how it's supposed to, and how it's working is a conversation maybe for
Yeah. That's
with a
another. Yeah.
beer,
Of course.
with a beer and a cognac at
No,
another
look,
time.
it's not perfect.
Yeah,
not
it's
perfect.
not perfect.
Yeah.
But what would be your advice to certain parents who unfortunately get the news their kid's not in group 1, their kid is in group 2, and for this either parent volunteer or paid coach, or however you, whatever, that doesn't really matter if they're paid or not paid. What would your advice be to that parent where, what, their kid is not in group one, and they threaten, if my kid is not in group one, I'm taking him somewhere else?
Yeah. Believe me, I've had these conversations, and the thing is that explain the process from the beginning. Explain what this is about. So make sure they know what this is. Then try to again communicate things as you go along, so everybody knows how it is. That's very hard to do because you can't talk, obviously, to every parent, but at least communicate the process. Show them what the process is. Make them understand, first of all, how it's working, and this is the possibility. And yes, and I think the most important thing that parents don't get, that this is a process. It's not a one-day thing. It's a process. So your kid will get better within a 10-year or 12-year time. So relax on what you think your kid is like. Just, it's crazy because when I coached and when I played, my kids played. And imagine somebody like me that you would think would be on top of the coach I never said a word. The parents, unless they knew me from playing or coaching, they didn't even know who I was. I never spoke to the coach. I never did anything because all I wanted is for my kid to enjoy playing. Exactly. And that's what a lot of people don't get, is this is supposed to be fun for the child. It's supposed to be something that they enjoy. And the more you put this type of thing, and the more they see you, that as a parent, you're disappointed or you question this or what, a lot of people don't understand that actually discourages their kid. Because at the end of the day, they just want to go play soccer and have a good time. So leave your kid alone, support them, help them, guide them, but just let them be and let them figure out things on their own, first of all. Yes. There's a lot of kids lack independent. They're not independent. They always wait for the parent to always do things. The coaches like to work with kids that are independent, that ask their own questions, that do their own thing. Obviously, they're children. You have to have the parent involved. But in many ways, the parents don't think actually the same way as the kids does. Because a lot of parents come to me and they say things, but did you discuss this with your kid? Does your kid feel this way? And all I'm saying, no, I didn't. Well, you should, because maybe your kid doesn't actually feel this way, or it's more of your issue than it is your child. So a lot of people just need to relax. The parent that really, I don't want to say a bad word, but the guy that's an idiot is going to continue to be an idiot. That's not going to change no matter what you tell him. But a reasonable person, and a person who kind of looks at things and thinks about them, they will understand the process. They may not like it, but they will understand the process. And a lot of people, and this is for me a very passionate thing, because you can tell already the way I'm speaking about it, is that, many parents come to me and they say, yeah, but my kid is better than that kid. So I tell them, you know what I'll do? I will go tell that parent that you told me that your son is better than them. And you think they're going to like this? You think they don't think the same? So a lot of people say, well, my kid deserves to be on the group one. Yeah, but so do other kids. Yeah. And we can't have them all on group one. So they have to make choices. They have to pick. So, and believe me, for the coaches, I can tell you this for a fact, and for the TDs, which kid plays all the time is the hardest thing for them. And a lot of people don't realize that. Nobody likes to go tell a kid that you're going, from group one to group two. Nobody does. I don't enjoy it. It's such a hard thing for everybody to do. But as long as you're clear, and as long as you're transparent, and as long as you explain yourself from the beginning, you're hoping that the reasonable person understands. And also the fact is that just because they went down to group two from group one, that doesn't mean they will not go back, if that's the case. But a lot of people are a little bit too focused on the kid, and they don't care about the rest of the kids. And that's not cool, because we have to care about all the kids, but parents care only about one.
Exactly. The tunnel vision. I've seen it many times where it's, and again, I get it. As a parent, see it.
As a parent, you care about your kid. You, of course, because sometimes the kid goes, they gets in the car. I didn't play with my friends. I'm crying. I get that. I have kids myself. It's not easy. But, at the end of the day, this is what it is. Going in what the situation. Nobody told you that your kid is going to be in group one the whole year. So this. There are other kids involved. Other kids could be moving a little bit quicker than yours, but that doesn't mean yours are going to recover a little bit. So you know what it is, Stevie, above everything else? It's pride, and it's a lot of people get embarrassed because what happens is...
I don't know why.
Yeah, because a lot of people with the group of friends oh shit, all of a sudden my kid now is playing in group 2. I feel bad in front of my friends. Well, that's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous and selfish because
Of
you know
course.
just about myself too. My dad and my mom, immigrants from Italy, 1960. Uh,
If I didn't play
John,
good, my father would slap me.
yeah, I was told the truth. Like my dad was honest with me, and he's like, you're having fun playing soccer. Yeah, but I am having fun playing soccer. Like, think
That's
about school because you're not gonna make it. And you
Steve.
know what? We can't do that
Yeah,
nowadays, and
that's a
that's the
lot. What
sad
a lot
part.
of people. Yeah, that's a lot of people. They don't understand. The biggest thing is for the kids to go there and enjoy playing soccer. Yes, it doesn't work for everybody. Not every kid has fun. Yes, there are clubs and coaches that are not very good at it. I get it,
Yeah,
but at the same time, if you don't like where you are, go somewhere else. If you think, but give it a chance. Let it be. They're 9 years old. They're 10 years old. They're 11 years old. Let it be, man. Just let them go there, enjoy having fun, enjoy playing with the ball, enjoy to learn, and just let it be. Let it be,
yeah,
because I think in most cases parents do more harm to their kids than good, because they're sad for their kids, or they're embarrassed for the kids, but actually their kid is actually not sad nor embarrassed.
true, very true.
It's
There's
easy for
why
me.
I know
Say,
I know that John. It seems like we have a great chemistry, and I would love to share a beer with you one time. But I'm almost at an hour of your time, and
I don't drink
I
beer, man.
need.
That's the bad thing.
Oh,
I'm a
you
self.
don't?
Oh, I'm very I'm terrible with drinking. Terrible.
Okay, so whatever, a coffee. You like coffee at least?
Of course.
So then, good,
I go to
perfect.
I go to Milan's all the time.
That's my next visit is with John. But there is one section of the show that I need to get to, is because it's very recent for me, and I really need your a better explanation than I got.
Yeah.
Because for me, and again, I've always watched soccer. I grew up with soccer. I played, not at the highest level, but I played. And soccer for me, I'm a purist when it comes to it. I don't like changing rules. I don't like. I learned playing the way it was going to be played,
Yeah.
whether I was 4 or
Yeah.
11. Except for the amount of players on the team, it was always the same rules.
Yeah.
For now, what I've seen now is U9, U10, again, the age group of my son. I don't know what's happening lower and higher. They're changing things, and I understand some of the changing, but can you explain to me why they would stop 2 halves of soccer and start 4 quarters of soccer?
It's to give more coaching in between the halves, and not coach too much during the game. Because what happens is a lot of coaches are throwing information while the kids are playing. What you want to do is you want to create a player that thinks on their own. So what happens is you're supposed to do a little bit less coaching while they play, and then have a break, like a timeout, if you want to call it, which you don't have in soccer. But in that case, give them a 5 minutes, come in, give them their coaching while they're all together, and just let them go out and execute the things that you discussed. Because there's a lot of times, Stevie, there's a lot of overcoaching. I'm guilty of that. When I see kids play, I give them information all the time, and that's not good, because that doesn't help the kid. Give them information at the moment that they're doing things. It's better, and they retain things better when they're calmer and when they're looking at you and they're paying attention to you, for them to retain information. So while they play, you tell them pass, you tell them shoot. They don't retain that situation, because they are actually playing at the time. So you may not like it, but I kind of like this, because
Okay.
what it does is it gives them coaching while they're all together, so they listen, and then they go out and execute what they were told. And the coach is supposed to give very little information while they're playing.
Okay.
And also to allow kids to play a bit longer, because what happens is in the younger ages, we see coaches in some cases change kids every 3 minutes, every 4 minutes, which is completely ridiculous. But a kid at 9 years old cannot last, because their lungs are not big enough for them to play intense for 10 minutes. That's impossible, right? But what happens is a lot of coaches would just change kids every 2 seconds, which does not allow the kid to actually try to work on something if he's changed every 3 or 4 minutes, because by the time he gets on and by the time he tries to do something else, he's off.
Okay.
So for me, it's a very good idea, to be honest.
Okay.
I think it's a very good idea.
I'm willing to try. I'm willing to see.
Look, it's a change.
Yeah.
It's something different, but there's a to me there's a proper there's a proper reason for it to happen. Like it's not just thought of just like this. I think a lot of smart people thought this way, and I personally think that it's very good.
Good. Next of the rule changes for U9 to U10.
There's some that are stupid.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go to something that has bothered me ever since I started to coach. I for the life of me cannot understand why kids cannot execute a throw-in, which I think is the most basic of soccer tools. That it's the only time, goddamn it, that you could touch the ball with your hands.
Yeah.
And it's not a jump shot; it's a throw-in.
Yeah.
So now what they're doing is, they're eliminating throw-ins via
It's
the
been
hands
eliminated, yes.
and putting it ball on the floor, a la futsal, putting it in. I was semi okay with that. The rule that I don't like is not the player has two options: one, pass the ball in, or two, dribble the ball in.
Yes.
I would
As
love
long as the-
your.
as
I
long
would
as the
love your.
ball- Yeah, as long as the ball is stationary on the
Yes.
line, then the player. I'm sorry, Steve, to say this, but I love it. I think it's amazing. It's one of the best rules that I've seen in a long time. Throwing, if you think about it, it's kind of useless. There's no reason, in all honesty, even in professional, to have throw-ins. I don't know why it was always done that way. I don't know why throw-ins exist. But for this age, because of development and because of them touching the ball with their feet as much as possible, I think this is a great rule because, for one, kids don't even know how to take a throwing. They have no idea. You're not going to spend time while you practice to show kids how to throw the ball because that doesn't matter. And it creates a little bit more decision making. And for me, I think it's one of the best rules that I've seen was implemented for a long time. I think it's fantastic. I think it should be in the professional level. I think it should be the same.
Completely remove throw-in altogether.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
That's
next,
people are saying, "What the hell are you talking about?"
No. It's again, it's something that, of course.
But it's crazy that people have, in the professional level, there's clubs that have an actual guy that they pay just to do set plays on throw-ins.
Wow.
Liverpool had a guy that they were paying all kinds of money for them. He's the throwing
specialist
coach. Yes,
throwing coach.
Paid him money to do this, and they went from 25% or something in scoring goals to 75% because of the guy. Yeah, so it's crazy. But I think it's very good. The more the kids have the ball on their feet, the better it is. And throw-ins are useless.
Cool. The last thing.
Sorry if I pissed anybody off, but
no, not at all. It's again to share, and I don't want to be someone. I'm going to be straightforward. It's a much better explanation than I got.
Yeah, but there are rules that are. See, unfortunately, there are rules that are put in because the coaching is not good enough, unfortunately, in certain ages. So, for example, the retreat line, right? You guys have that the kids have to back up. For me, I find that ridiculous that, people have to back up so they can allow other people to play. Because if I coach 9 years old, I would automatically tell them to get back anyway, right? And I would automatically tell my team to try to play out, even if they lose the ball.
Yeah.
Because they have to learn how to play out.
Exactly.
So a lot of coaches, they see the other team that's high, and the kid just boots the ball up the field for absolutely no reason. So this rule had to be put in, unfortunately, for people that don't know the game very well, and they just told the goalkeeper, just punt the ball up the field, and we all get up. So we needed to put, for me, an unnatural rule in, something that should be natural anyway, because the kid should be backing up anyway when the other team has the ball, just to set up so they can go forward again. And for me, that's a stupid rule, but it's a rule that unfortunately we need because of the development of our country.
Very interesting. Yes, the retreat line is something.
But now that the new rule is also that the goalkeepers cannot punt the ball, right?
That's another rule. Yeah.
Look, to me, there are natural rules.
Yeah.
Like the kick in, like you said, the kick in. I think that's fantastic. I think there's nothing unnatural about it. But the fact that we have to put a rule that the goalkeepers can punt the ball down the field, I think that's completely ridiculous. But the reason for that, again, is because the coaches in those ages do not understand any different. So they just tell their kid to boot the ball up the field for absolutely no reason. And the furthest they kick it, the happier the coach is, which is obviously ridiculous. But we have to put it as unnatural rules to try to help the game, even though I think they're stupid.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm curious to see how this works out in the summer, and
Yeah, and
of
they're gonna.
course,
And the idea is to do this at afterwards, like this first year in nines and tens. So they start a little bit younger, and they will be the same for 11 and 12-year-olds.
wow, very
Yeah.
very interesting. The last point on this is something that again. Uh, I don't know. I don't fall into this group of parents who can't understand that there's a winner and and a loser to a season. Is why they've decided to rename tournaments as festivals, and why there is no standings for these kids that are playing. I myself, growing up, loved to look at the standings, and playing for RDP. Yeah, my age group, we were not very at the top all the time, but it was cool, and I find that, John, things like this, we're doing a disservice to kids because they have to they have to understand that there's winners and there's
Yeah.
losers,
Yeah.
because that's
Except
life.
except that it's the society that's an issue because a lot of people to put too much emphasis on the fact if they're winning or losing. That's the problem. To have winners and losers, or I wouldn't say losers, but to have somebody
Yes.
win, I think there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is our society doesn't understand that. They think that because their kid didn't win, their team is not good, their players are not good. It doesn't, which is not the case.
Not the
Okay,
case. Exactly.
this example of not having standings at this age group is not in Canada. This was brought. We learned this from countries that actually play soccer for 150 years. There's
Wow.
a lot of countries in the world that up to 13 years old or 14 years old do not have standings because it's about competing with each other instead of looking to win. Because what happens is a lot of coaches coach in a way just to win the game, but they don't develop. And I can tell you examples of teams that at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old won every single game. And then what happens is when they get now to an age that some other teams have developed properly, they cannot beat those teams anymore because they never learned how to play properly because they only learned to play just to win. So one kid gets the ball, dribbles, everybody scores, and the coach is good, well done. Well, it's not well done because he may not be able to do this at 12 or 13 years old. He can do it at 8, he can do it at 9. I used to do it, but I used to do it all the time.
Of course, you used to do it.
But what I'm trying to say is that the player does not develop. So there's a difference between playing to win and winning is everything. There's a big difference between one or the other. Yes, you play to win. Yes, you play to compete. But at the end, if you won or not, that shouldn't matter. Okay?
Very
And the
well.
first of all, I think, again, I think it's a little bit happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit too Canadian, right?
Yes.
Because competition is a bit of a problem here.
Yeah, exactly.
But I agree. But at the same time, it just makes no sense for a 9-year-old or 10-year-old to have won and think that that is good because it actually may not be as good. But if the coach is proper, they compete, they play well, and they play to win, but do not emphasize the fact that you won or not, because that doesn't go well as far as developing the player. Because I know a lot of kids that have won every single game from 9 years old to 12. They lose at 13, and they're all suicidal.
Yes.
All the parents want to jump off the bridge because they lost
frazzled.
the game. So that's ridiculous because you need to learn as well to lose. Because in many cases, when you lose, you probably will learn a little bit better because you've done something that's wrong that now you need to improve. And a lot of kids lose, but that doesn't mean that they're not good. It's just that that's what they have at the moment compared to another team. So it is a little bit happy-go-lucky, but at the same time, I think there's no reason to have standings. It changes. And the kids do follow their own. Huh? They do. Some kids just on their own follow what the other clubs do, and they know where they stand. But the idea is not to put an emphasis finishing first or second. That's the
Understood.
and that's done for parents, again, unfortunately, because there are a lot of good parents. I don't want people to think that every parent is bad. But a lot of parents, they think, they go around to people saying, yeah, my kid won the tournament. Yeah, and?
Yeah.
So? Okay, good for you. So they won the tournament. What does that change in anybody's life?
Nothing. John,
what I say is pretty raw.
Yeah, that's exactly the way we like it here. Raw as it is.
I know I'm taking long, but it's a bit easier for me to talk to parents because they cannot approach me in the same way that they will approach somebody that maybe they think that he doesn't know anything about soccer. For me, it's a little bit different. I kind of
You have the pedigree. You have the
yeah,
pedigree.
but I tell people, think about what you asked me before,
Yes.
because you may not like the answer, because I'm going to tell you how it is, and you can't tell me that you know better unless you do know better.
Yeah.
But in most cases, you do know better. So our opinion may be not the same, because if I go to the doctor, if I go to a lawyer, I'm not going to tell the guys what he has, because he's a lawyer, he's a doctor. I don't know shit about either thing. Yeah. But I know a little bit about soccer. So when you come and ask me a question, or you come talk to me about winning, expect an answer that you may not like.
John, I want to thank you, but I want to take just because I know you're very raw, and I would love to know these things from you. Just some quick fire, Don't talk like you've been talking very long-winded. Short answers. Yeah. Short.
I talk too much. I'm not perfect, man. I have good hair, but I'm not perfect. I don't have good hair today.
It's good. It's good. Who's your favorite player?
Gerard from Liverpool.
Who's your favorite coach?
That's a good one. Your paisan, the guy in Tottenham.
Conte, yeah. I see you have similarities to him.
A bit. I'm taller.
Your favorite teammate?
That's very hard, because I've had I don't think I have one in particular. There's a lot of guys that I got along with, and there's a lot of guys that I liked, but it's hard for me to say somebody in particular.
I was expecting that answer. Your most memorable goal?
Man, I didn't score that many, so I remember the ball very well. Probably my most memorable goal is the first goal that I scored in Greece. I scored two of them because I was a defender, so I didn't know how to kick the ball. But the first goal that I scored in Europe was obviously very memorable for me, because the fact that I always dreamed of going back to Greece and play, and scoring a goal playing in the first division for me was a big thing.
If you could exchange jersey with one player, who would you exchange with?
Well, that's pretty interesting, because I have a little story for you. Sorry to talk again. I've changed with guys like Brema, who scored the penalty shot in Italy in 1994 to win the World Cup. We played against Germany. I changed shirts with him. I changed shirts with Rai. We played against Belgium. Number 10, who played for PSG. And the probably the most famous shirt that I've ever changed, Canada played against Spain. And believe it or not, I changed shirts with Guardiola.
Wow.
His shirt, I have it up. My shirt, his dog wears it for a dog walk, or he washes his car with my shirt. Probably. His dog plays with it and cuts it in pieces,
Or you know what? He's drawing up some sort of game plan on the red.
Yeah. But a guy that I would like to have changed words, and maybe some people, obviously this was a long time ago, was probably Beckenbauer, if people remember who that is.
Yes. And my last fire, your favorite Italian dish?
Damn. I like pasta. I think if I stood up, I think you can tell that I like pasta. Man, I don't know. I went to Italy, and I had the pizza there with the freaking slices of mozzarella cut like this big. Yeah. The buffalo cheese, it was this big. I couldn't even bite it. But probably pizza that I had in Italy.
Okay, and if you could recommend a Greek dish?
Hey, Greeks, we have super food.
Tiramisu.
That's another story. But there's the classics of moussaka or pasticcio, those things that look like lasagnas, right?
Yeah.
But I can tell you, Greeks, were like Italians, of course. Food was super at that. So whatever you eat that's Greek, it's all good.
Amazing. John, I want to thank you very, very much for accepting our invitation. It was great fun. An hour passed so quickly. I'm pretty sure we could have went another hour. John, just in parting, tell everybody where they can reach you, or where they can grab some of your knowledge.
Well, look, obviously, the information on how people can reach me is on the website of the Lac St. Louis. I'm a lot more approachable than people think. And if anybody has any question about soccer, whatever it is, I always take the time to answer. And I'm a lot nicer than I seem.
John, I want to thank you. I want to thank the boys and girls again at evangelistasports.com. Check them out for all
Giovanni,
your
Giovanni,
soccer
say hello
needs.
to Giovanni. Yeah.
Will do, will do. He's gonna listen to it. His sons are gonna play it for him, guaranteed. Now that he's on the show, uh, go there for your kids and all your soccer apparel. They have beautiful Milan stuff. They have beautiful Canada stuff that's coming out now for the national team. So thank you again, John. It was a pleasure. It was an honor. Marcello, take us away.